start from the beginning, man. How old are you? Where'd you grow up? How'd you find junk removal?
Yeah, man. I'll give you the quick version of it. So I'm almost 33. I'll be 33 in a couple months, or next month actually. I'll be 33 next month. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2017 and jumped into a job at a distillery. And I was there for a few years, and I moved to a position that I only worked 312s a week. And so I'm too much of a busybody to have 4 days off a week and not do anything with that time. So I bought a dump trailer, very similar origin story to a lot of guys. Bought a dump trailer, started renting it on the weekends, making a little cash. And then I had a lady one day say, "Hey, would you mind loading this stuff for me?" And I was like, sure, I'll tack on like 50 or $100 to load it, and I'll load it. And then, but I was in and out of there in 45 minutes versus letting it sit for the weekend. So I was like, okay, that was cool. Made about the same amount of money, and I was in and out in no time. So I kind of started, just telling friends, family, stuff like that, people that I knew, like, hey, I'll come clean your stuff out. I'll come do this. And, well, the rental aspect of a dump trailer, excuse me, believe it or not, actually was very popular. So I ended up buying a hook lift truck and 7 dumpsters. It was a 1988 International. It was a steel box I called Tank, no AC, just an absolute brute of a truck, but it started every time I turned the key. So I started delivering cans while I was working at Buffalo, at Buffalo Trace, the distillery I was at. And man, it was a gruesome, gruesome start. It was, I would go to work at 7 o'clock at night, get off at 7 in the morning, take a nap till like 11, get up, deliver dumpsters all day, go back to work, same, and then rinse and repeat over and over and over again. Well, I had a guy call me one day about a year into it, and he was like, "Hey, do you all do demo?" And I was like, sure, I'll knock some stuff down, whatever. I'll be your Huckleberry. And so went and did this demo. Hindsight's 2020. That was 4 years ago. We did a horrible job, but he was pleased with it, so whatever. Made some good money, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And this is kind of the part where the story goes from, okay, we're just not your routine demo guy. I had a friend of mine from high school who owned a remodeling company, very high end, very luxury type homes, and he called me one day and was like, "Hey, we should do some work together. Come do some demos for me." Well, I learned very, very quickly what high-end remodelers, what contractors, what homeowners, most importantly, are looking for when you're coming to tear their house apart. They're looking for red carpet, boutique, like the works. And, there's a lot of emotions involved in that. I know it doesn't sound like it, but I call it managing emotions with the client, because you're tearing their house apart. It's a very stressful time for them. So I learned very quickly how to help manage that. And just kind of over the next 2 years while I was still working at the distillery, I would go to work, cold call contractors. I would cold call real estate companies. I would cold call everybody every day for 2 years. And then I finally built the Rolodex deep enough that I left there, which was a great job, 6-figure job, loved it. But I just took the leap, left there. And then, that was 2.5 years ago. The rest is kind of history. And now we do, residential and commercial demolition for renovations for, a laundry list of contractors in central Kentucky, doing, very well as far as revenue goes with zero ad spend. I don't fight for jobs. I don't bid against many people other than maybe in the commercial setting. Keep a full schedule year round, and, just have a great reputation as far as being a boutique demo guy. I know that sounds like a double negative, but there is a lot that goes into setting the stage for the client and the contractor, before you tear the house apart. That's just kind of really all there is to it. And now we're here talking to the Forget About It family. So,
So how did you? Okay, at the beginning and everything, it's got to be stressful and all. So, like, how do you, like, as somebody getting into it, they're doing junk removal.
yep.
How did you start, like, kind of dabbling with demo? Because I'm like, for that job that you're telling me about with the 10 by 20, and you're saying get equipment and all that right there, it's adding a whole nother stress factor to me. I've never, first off, rented equipment. I've never
Yeah.
driven equipment. So, like, how do I kind of ease into this?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there a way?
Yeah. If you're going to ease into it, my recommendation, this goes for anybody, even without very much experience, is to look for small time ish remodeling contractors in your area. Reach out to them and just be very personable, like, treat them like people, not like a robot. Don't call them and I talk like a robot, but treat as, just tell them what you're doing. Say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I can offer you. And, if you've got any bathroom remodel demos are about as simple as it gets in most cases. There are some cases that it can be a complete nightmare, but for the most part, kitchens and bathrooms is about as simple as it gets. So, just reach out to those people, those contractors, and say, hey, I'd love to do some kitchens, love to do some bathrooms for you. And watch a handful of YouTube videos or reach out to some of the guys in the industry, whether it's Yee or me, or my messages are always open, or anybody, if you've got any questions. And it's once you do a half a dozen, you start to get the hang of it and you start to get comfortable and you start to learn, and it helps if you've got any construction knowledge at all. If you know how stuff goes together, it's much easier to take apart. Like I don't even bring a sledgehammer to our projects. We have one, we do own one for concrete and stuff like that, but I don't use a sledgehammer. Everything that's put together by a man's hand can be taken apart by a man's hand. And I don't mean a man specifically. I know it can be a woman too. I'm just saying, if a person put it together, a person can take it apart. So, just dive in and get your feet wet. I even offered demos for free when I started. I was like, if you're not pleased with the product, I'll just do it for free. And, guys would be like, well, you're not going to do it I said, no, I'll do it for free. I won't charge you a penny. If I get done and you're not pleased with it, I won't charge you a penny. And it worked. You just have to get in front of people. And most importantly, just like junk removal or anything, you just have to provide the best service and the best product that you possibly can. And if you do that and you pick up the phone and show up on time, then everything else just follows suit.
Now, Austin, is there any special licensing or anything that you had to do, or is it the same as junk removal?
Yeah, so I can speak only for Kentucky and a couple other states that we've done some out-of-state stuff in, which are Tennessee, Indiana, and Ohio. But for my state specifically, there is no contractor license for, demolition is not a recognized trade. I don't agree with it, but whatever. But there is no license. Anybody with a hammer and a pry bar can take your stuff away. Yeah, or tear your house apart or whatever. Now, when you get into totals and tearing down total structures, then you have to pull permits. You do have to have licenses, stuff like that. But if you're just doing the smaller end stuff, there is no requirements at all, essentially. But if you want to be competitive in the space, if you want to make good money in the space, if you want to have reoccurring work, you're going to want to have it, the business licenses in those areas, all the insurances and stuff that we all have that the contractors are going to require. I don't do any work for investors at all, ever. And that's because they don't require most guys to have those insurances and licenses and all that stuff. So I can't compete with their prices. So I do zero work for investors, which is fine. I don't mind it. But if you want to be competitive in the space, you've got to have at least at the bare minimum business licenses and insurance and stuff, but there is no requirements on who can demo what in Kentucky.
Guys, if we have Timo in the chat, please tune in, brother. Let us know what the deal is with demo in California. And the reason why I asked that is Timo was in contracting before. Now he's focusing on demolition and junk removal in SoCal. So, he'll know the laws and everything. So, put me and Mr. Yee on. But after hearing all this, Mr. Yee, I think demo is a really good, addition, and it kind of like separates us from the other junk removal companies. What's your thoughts on that, brother?
I think that, we do a lot of small, we call it light demo, as you're experiencing right now with hot tub removal. Some people, I offer countertop removal, cabinet removal, and, occasionally a bathtub removal. But we have to recognize you have to have a little bit of common sense. And you have to have a little bit of knowing of handyman type. Go turn the water off. Make sure the water's off. And, you have to know about certain tools. So that's why a lot of people don't like to get into the big demo jobs, because there's a lot of risk. Because one little thing can go, you didn't know there's a pipe right there. You didn't know there's a wire right there. Or the contractors before who came in hid something behind the wall, because you never know until you find what's behind the wall. And there was a live wire. And even if you turn off the power, sometimes things are not wired right. And there's still a live wire. And that can that can help you run out the door. I'm done with this
See,
shit.
that's the shit that you gotta understand. Austin, you sound like you're a handyman. You put things together. You gotta understand. A guy like me, man, I never did anything with my hands before this. Junk removal is my physical. That's so I'm thinking of when demo. I'm just like, yo, take a fucking sledgehammer and just start slamming things, and that's demo to me. But I'm realizing there's a lot more, and there's a big learning curve. So I'm just trying to break it all down and figure out like how do I go about this and kind of start learning this trait.
A fun fact was, and I still get made fun of for this today. So I did not grow up around construction. I didn't really have my hand in it much, but I've got some common sense and I'm not a dummy. So I was able to quickly learn. But one of the very first kitchens I ever demoed, the guy said, take the soffit out. He called me on the phone and he was like, hey, I changed my mind. Take the soffit out. Do either of you know what a soffit is? This is a rhetorical question. Okay. So I didn't either. That's what I'm getting at. I had no idea what a soffit was. A soffit is like, if you look above the cabinets in your kitchen, that's where, if there's a little framed box with some drywall on it, there might be some plumbing run through it. That's a soffit. Had no clue what a soffit was. I had to ask the contractor who I'm actively demoing this kitchen for, what's the soffit?
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, what do you mean? It's the thing above the cabinets. Oh, yeah. I knew that. Yeah, we're good.
I didn't
thought you said
understand what you
something
said.
else. Yeah. So I played it off, demoed the soffit, and then just learned and just started banking knowledge as we went. Like I said, I had no idea in the beginning. So, but the margins are great. The way I price things is light years different than the way some of my competitors price things locally. Just a little bit of insight on that is I am actually 90% hourly on my demo jobs. And that's from long-term relationships, people that that trust us and know how efficient we can be. They're like, okay, here's the address, put it on the schedule, get it done, send me the bill. Versus having to go quote everything. And there's a reason for that. It's as long as my guys are working, the company's making money because it's on an hourly model. I cannot lose money unless I break something. If I tear something up or break something that I have to repair, then I might lose money on a project if it's a small one. But if the guys are working, the company is generating revenue at a margin that we need. So a very different pricing model than a lot of guys, but it works for us. But as far as getting into it, back to what your question was, Paul, it's just one of the things you have to dive into if you're interested in it, because there's a lot of different avenues that junk removal and light demo can take you to. To give you an example, all of our contractors that we do demos for, we end up coming back about a month later to do what I call as a midway construction clean. So, and it's just something that I tie into the demo and I offer to our clients where we go back to just take up the floor protection and put fresh floor protection down, clean up the workspace area because the electrician and the plumber and everybody else has left a giant mess. And so our demo has translated into, hey, we'll come back and we'll clean all this up for you about halfway through after drywall, make it look good for your client. Contractors love it. It's a moneymaker and something to fill a schedule with. And then that can lead into, anything else. So demo has led us into water mitigation. So now we do, dry outs and water mitigation coupled with the demo for those water losses. So a wise man once told me, and this is a friend of mine, that instead of going after every client you can possibly get, offer more to the clients that you already have. And, how can I be the guy what do I need to do to be the guy when a contractor or client or a homeowner has a problem? It might not be junk or demo related, but you're the guy they think of immediately. Even if you can't provide a service that they're looking for, you might be able to help them find a service that they're looking for, which in the future will lead to junk removal or more, reoccurring work. So I think it's purely a dive in, just let it rip, give it a chance. If you fail miserably, try again. You can do what I did and offer it for free. If they don't like it, watch a handful of YouTube videos or whatever it is. But there's a lot of information out there and a lot of good people to kind of help walk through it.
Solutions that come up that they come to you for. Solutions. How do we get this? How do we get that? And it's just a door opener for so many other paths. As he said, he's doing water situations now. He's doing cleanups. So junk removal is almost the same way, because now you're going to start offering construction debris cleanups. And I just did one the other day, and it's a mess. But as we all know, construction out here in California, construction debris jobs are the most expensive jobs because it's a lot of wear and tear on your body. It's a lot of weight, and you got to know, you know what I mean. It's going to be a lot of work getting this, and there's a lot of risk at that. Nails, stuff you could step on, and everything on that floor wants to hurt you.